Snowed in at a remote rest stop, Darby stumbles upon a horrifying sight: a little girl trapped inside a locked van. The worst part, one of the strangers inside is the kidnapper. With nowhere to run and no one to trust, she must uncover the truth before the killer silences her next. To know what happened, watch till ends. The movie starts in a rehab center, where a patient named Jade shares a story about her struggles. Darby is also in the group. She then points out that Jade has told this same story many times at other rehab centers, and says they are just wasting time. A staff member named Mike walks in and tells Darby she has an urgent phone call. On the line is a man named Joe, who informs her that her mother has suffered a brain aneurysm and is in a hospital in Salt Lake City. He also gives Darby her sister Devon's phone number. Since Darby is in rehab, Mike stops her from making the call without the doctor's permission. He also reminds her that she has lied before about fake family emergencies. That night, Darby sneaks into Jade's room and asks to borrow her hidden phone. She manages to call Devon, but Devon tells her not to come because she can't handle Darby's problems along with their mother's emergency. Darby takes matters into her own hands and escapes from the rehab center. She breaks into Mike's car, searching for the key, and finds a small bag of cocaine. Using a screwdriver, she starts the car and drives off. While on the road, she repeatedly tries to call and text Devon, but Devon doesn't respond. A heavy blizzard begins, covering the roads with snow. Finally, Devon replies to Darby's messages, but when Darby pulls over to read them, they are not what she hoped for. The message reads, "Don't come as if she comes, she will make it worse." Darby thinks about snorting the cocaine she found in the car, but ends up falling asleep instead. A cop wakes her up and tells her the roads are now closed due to the storm. He gives her two options: either go back to town or head to the visitor's center just a few hundred yards away. Not wanting to return to where she stole the car, Darby drives her car to the visitor's center. Inside, she sees 4 people. One man listening to music with headphones, another man sleeping in the corner, and a couple, Ed and Sandy, sitting at the center table. She goes to the women's bathroom to call Devon, but it's under construction, with a large hole leading outside covered by plywood. In the men's bathroom, she realizes there's no phone service and once again considers using the drugs. Instead, she decides against it and gets herself a cup of coffee. After learning there's no Wi-Fi, she overhears Ed telling Sandy that he managed to get a bar of service for about 10 seconds near a tree in the middle of the lot. Darby steps outside to find a signal, but doesn't go near the tree. As she walks around, she suddenly hears a loud bang and muffled screams coming from a van. Looking through one of the back windows, she sees a young girl tied up with duct tape inside. Darby can't get into the van, so she takes a picture of its Nevada license plate. However, she quickly realizes she has no idea who owns it. Back in her car, she tries calling 911, but the call doesn't go through. She then notices Ed stepping outside through her mirror and quietly slips the screwdriver into her pocket. Ed claims he came out because he thought Darby found a signal. A few minutes later, everyone is back inside, and Sandy suggests they all get to know each other since they're stuck there. The man with headphones introduces himself as Lars, while the one who is sleeping is named Ash. Ed proposes they play a card game to pass time, but Lars says he doesn't gamble but suggests they play bullshit instead. To his surprise, everyone agrees. Everyone gets ready to play the game, and Lars explains the rules of bullshit. The dealer distributes the cards evenly. The person next to them puts down a random card face down and announces its number. The next player must put down a card that is either one number higher or lower, also face down, and announce it. At this point, players can call bullshit if they think someone is lying. The game ends when one player gets rid of all their cards. As the game begins, Darby uses the opportunity to ask where everyone is from, hoping to figure out who might own the van. Lars casually mentions he's heading home to Nevada. In the middle of the game, we learn more about them. Ed is a gambler and an ex-Marine. His wife, Sandy, used to be a nurse and is taking him on a surprise vacation to Reno. Ash is from San Francisco and is traveling to New Denver, Canada, to visit family. Sandy quickly wins the game, causing Lars to throw his cards down in frustration. His angry reaction convinces Darby that he's the kidnapper. She leaves the table and heads to the under-construction women's bathroom. Once inside, she tries calling 911 again, but the call fails. She then attempts to send a text with the van's license plate photo, but that also doesn't go through. With no other options, she grabs a box cutter and some tools from a cart and removes the plywood blocking the wall. She sneaks outside, breaks into the van, and attempts to free the girl. Before she can cut the duct tape around the girl's wrists, she notices a hospital bracelet that reveals she has Addison's disease, meaning a spike in adrenaline could be fatal. Suddenly, the van door opens. Darby quickly hides under some blankets in the back. Lars climbs inside, talking to the girl as if nothing is wrong. Like this is completely normal. Lars starts the engine to turn on the heater. He casually tells the girl, Jay, that they're going to see someone named Uncle Kenny. Then, he notices that the cardboard covering the back window has been removed and moves to tape it back up. Darby grips her box cutter, ready to attack, but Lars doesn't see her. However, she notices he is carrying a gun. As Jay continues to cry, Lars tries to comfort her, saying she'll be okay. Then, he remembers he left some snacks inside for her and steps out of the van to grab them. Darby assures Jay she'll come back for her and sneaks out of the van. However, Lars quickly notices footprints in the snow and starts to panic. Darby crawls back through the bathroom opening just as Ash knocks on the door to check on her. She pulls him inside, about to explain the situation, but before she can finish, Lars barges in. Thinking fast, Darby kisses Ash to make it seem like they were just having a private moment. Lars awkwardly leaves. Once he's gone, Darby tells Ash everything. He quickly comes up with a plan. Darby will go outside to lure Lars away, giving Ash the chance to tell Ed. If Ed has a gun, they'll attack Lars together. If not, Ash grabs a nail gun from the tool bench as a backup weapon. Though hesitant, Darby agrees. She heads outside and re-enters the van, where she rips the tape off Jay's mouth and promises to get her out. But Jay, in tears, asks about the men. She reveals there are 2 kidnappers. Darby looks outside just in time to see Ash speaking with Lars. That's when the real twist is revealed. Ash is actually the mastermind behind the kidnapping. He tells Lars they need to do damage control. He then takes Lars's gun and hands him the modified nail gun, which is now rigged to fire with lethal force. The 2 rush to the van but find only Jay inside. Darby already runs back toward the visitor's center. Lars chases after her while Ash calmly enters the building, brushing past a suspicious Ed. In the hallway near the bathroom, Ash catches up to Darby and points the gun at her. He grabs her phone, deletes the failed 911 message, and then starts questioning her about her life. Ash also reveals the reason behind the kidnapping: ransom money. Jay's family is wealthy, but neither he knew about her illness. Meanwhile, Lars returns inside and poorly lies to Ed about Darby's whereabouts. Suspicious, Ed steps outside to search but finds nothing. He then signals to Sandy inside. Sandy starts looking around and eventually finds Darby with Ash. However, she doesn't notice that Ash has a gun hidden. She asks to speak with Darby privately, and Ash allows it. Sandy, sensing something is off, tries to get Darby to open up. But Darby dodges her questions. The 2 then return to the front table with the others. Back in the van, Jay has found the box cutter Darby left behind, and she's using it to free herself. Meanwhile, Lars, Ash, and Darby are taking inside when they spot Jay outside the van. Ash subtly signals Lars to handle it as Jay bolts into the woods. Darby quickly heads to the bathroom, with Ash following shortly after. When he enters the bathroom, she hits him with a hammer, but he quickly overpowers her. During the struggle, he doesn't notice his keys slipping out of his jacket. He soon gains the upper hand, slamming Darby's head against the floor and nearly strangling her. Before he can finish the job, Lars steps in and tells him Jay is nowhere to be found. Ash forces Darby to join them in searching the woods. As they walk, Lars reveals that he and Ash are brothers, both adopted by Uncle Kenny. He also lets slip that Jay isn't being held for ransom, she's being sold, meaning Ash had lied about their motives earlier. Darby spots a chance to escape when she notices a trail without footprints. She veers off, flashes her light into the brothers' eyes, then leaps down a steep hill, rolling until she crashes into a tree. Ash, furious, fires blindly into the darkness. The gunshot echoes back at the visitor's center, alerting Ed and Sandy. Ed heads outside and finds Jay unconscious in the snow, carrying her back inside. When Sandy sees Jay's medical bracelet, she realizes the girl is in an adrenal crisis. She needs immediate treatment. Meanwhile, Darby tosses her flashlight deeper into the woods as a distraction. While the brothers chase the light, she sneaks past them and makes it back to the visitor's center. She warns Ed and Sandy about the danger they're in. Moments later, Ash and Lars arrive outside, shouting threats. They demand Jay be handed over, or they'll kill everyone inside. Ed barricades the front door and calls out, warning the brothers that he's armed and won't hesitate to shoot. In reality, he has no gun. Ash calls out, claiming he has Jay's medication and warning that she'll die without it. Sandy, visibly distressed, confirms this and insists they should hand Jay over. Ed and Darby refuse, and Darby suddenly remembers she has the keys to the van. Ed proposes a trade, Jay's meds for the keys. Ash and Lars head to the van, but instead of grabbing the medication, they retrieve a plastic gas canister. Inside, the group anxiously debates whether the 2 are actually crazy enough to burn the place down. Darby returns with tools for weapons, while Sandy retrieves a can of pepper spray from her purse. Ash starts counting down, adding to the tension as both sides argue over what to do next. Just as Ash reaches 1, Jay suddenly wakes up and recognizes Sandy, her family's maid. A flashback reveals Sandy's involvement in the kidnapping. Jay used to humiliate Sandy, forcing her to dance for social media videos. When Jay was taken, Sandy was upstairs and heard everything, but chose to do nothing. She later lied to the police, claiming she had been vacuuming with headphones on. We then see Sandy's phone call with Ash, where he tells her they couldn't find Jay's medication and demands she bring more or risk losing her cut of the ransom money. Back in the present, Sandy betrays the group, yelling to Ash and Lars that Ed doesn't have a gun. Before Darby can react, Sandy pepper sprays her. Shocked, Ed demands to know what's happening. Sandy finally confesses her bank informed her they had no more money or savings, and she saw this as her only way out. With that, she removes the barricade, allowing the brothers inside. As Sandy administers Jay's medicine, the truth unfolds. She had arranged the kidnapping with Ash and Lars under the promise of a $2 million ransom. But Darby tells, this was never about ransom. The brothers planned to traffic Jay. Ash confirms it, and Lars cluelessly insists they're just giving her a better home. Ash then hints that their employer will kill them if they fail, revealing that this was never about the money. Sandy realizes the full extent of her mistake and begins to break down. Ash demands the van keys, but Ed refuses to give them up, knowing they'll be killed regardless. In response, Ash coldly shoots Ed in the chest, killing him instantly. Ash kills Sandy and attacks Darby before she can grab the pepper spray. He then uses a nail gun to pin her to the wall before dragging Lars to the bathroom to wash out the pepper spray. Seeing a hammer nearby, Darby calls out to Jay, urging her to grab it. Jay manages to pick it up just as Ash and Lars return. Ash demands the keys, but Darby refuses. Just then, Darby's phone lights up with a notification. Her mother has died. Another notification follows, revealing that the police are on their way. The earlier message had actually gone through. Enraged, Ash threatens to use the nail gun on Jay unless Darby tells him where the keys are. Left with no choice, Darby admits she hid them outside. Ash heads out to search for them, leaving Lars behind. Darby then whispers to Jay, telling her to turn off the lights. Lars starts to panic, demanding Jay sit back down. Darby seizes the moment, telling Lars he's not a killer and urging him not to harm a child. Jay manages to reach the light switch and plunges the room into darkness. In the confusion, Lars grabs her, but Darby uses the hammer to free herself from the nail. When Lars turns the lights back on, Darby strikes him with the hammer, causing him to accidentally fire his gun. The gunshot alerts Ash, who has just found the keys. Ash rushes back inside, armed with a nail gun, only to find Darby holding Lars at gunpoint. As he aims at her, Jay suddenly pops out and hits Ash's arm with a hammer, causing him to misfire. The nail shoots straight into Lars's forehead, killing him instantly. While Ash rushes to his brother's side, Darby and Jay make a run for the car. Darby manages to start it, but Ash fires multiple nails, bursting a tire and causing the car to crash. He then sets fire to the visitor's center before heading toward Darby's vehicle. Before he can reach it, a police officer arrives and orders him to step away. Seizing the opportunity, Darby opens the door and shoots Ash in the shoulder, knocking him to the ground. She steps out, gun still aimed at him, but the officer orders her to drop the weapon. When she doesn't comply, the officer shoots her in the stomach, causing her to collapse and drop the gun right next to Ash. Ash grabs the gun and shoots the cop before turning to finish off Darby, only to realize the gun is out of bullets. Frustrated, he grabs the nail gun and approaches the fallen officer to take his firearm. But before he can, Darby pulls out a screwdriver and stabs him, finally killing him. With Ash dead, Jay calls out for Darby from the car. Despite her injuries, Darby drags herself over to the officer's body and uses his radio to call for help. In a flash forward, we see Darby in rehab, recovering from her ordeal. A visitor arrives, it's Devin. The movie ends here. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more interesting movie recaps.